As always, he's lying down. This brings us to our final speaker of this afternoon. I would say the moment you've been waiting for. The rumble of the dot. The founding father of Aletta Jacob School of Public Health and the former scientific director of Aletta. Now chief of Lifelines, scientific chief, and professor of public health economics here at Rug. But above all, loving father, loving husband, and a great guy to have all kinds of conversations with about every topic you can imagine. Now he will present an overarching thesis show, Jochen's story, about what we're talking about. Can you as a university teach, research, and have an impact at the same time? Ladies and gentlemen, may I have the biggest applause today yet for the former scientific director of Aletta, Jochen Mierau.
Do I also get some water? Or?
For you, I do it all.
Thanks. So one thing I always tell my students is to never write out speeches. But then there's the second speech in my life that I've ever written out. The other one was the opening speech as Aletta, so I thought it was fair enough to do that today. So it's very nice to look into the audience and see so many. Thank you very much. See so many of you here. It's really an honor, and I would like to share some, let's say, final thoughts in this role, in this almost ending, or this role that I've ended. But for me today, it kind of ends completely. So I want to share some thoughts with you about that, and then afterwards, I'm basically the one that's dividing you from your drinks. So at a certain point, if you look at me thirsty, then I know it's time for me to round off. Which of course is also the reason that I wrote this down, because otherwise you all know that I'll be rambling on for a while. So let me see this as a bar talk, maybe. I should hang around. Cool. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really an honor for me to be here today and be able to say some words to you of farewell. I've really been moved and touched by all that I've heard today and also seen today, and I'm really thankful also for the warm farewell that I'm enjoying here. Today is 6 years ago that I came back from holidays in Italy, where I had conceived the idea of the Aletta Jacobs School of Public Health. It's 4.5 years to the day of the opening of the school, and it's 6 months since I announced that I would depart. The past 6 years have really been quite a ride, and I'm really proud of what we have achieved together. A lot has been achieved since that first day in Italy. And on that first day, I asked myself one question. If an Aletta Jacob School of Public Health would exist in Groningen, would anybody be against it? Most importantly, what we have achieved is that we have shown together that that initial question can be answered comfortably in the negative. And that, plain and simple, is the most important thing that has been achieved. The self-evident nature of the Aletta Jacob School of Public Health is a great testament to all the hard work that has been put into turning it from an idea into tangible reality. An achievement that can only be achieved together with many of the great people who are here today. Thank you very much for that. Before the summer, I had the opportunity of sitting down together with Nienke Schipsma to collect some thoughts on how the Aletta Jacob School of Public Health came to be, and also some lessons that can be drawn from that. I won't be repeating those here today, but I encourage everyone to read them in the Impact magazine that's downstairs, alongside, of course, all the other excellent contributions contained therein. Now, while public health and health disparities permeate much of what I do, today I would like to share some thoughts with you about impact and the role that universities play and can play in creating sustainable societal impact. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a nightmare, a recurring nightmare, one that keeps me up at night and invades my thoughts during the day. The year is 2053, and I'm giving my retirement speech. I reflect on all the publications that we wrote, the mechanisms that were uncovered, the government committees that I sat on, PhD students that were delivered, grants received, prizes, if any, won. All in all, a very well-rounded career. But gnawing on the table of all these achievements is the conscience not of an academic, but of a real person. What have all those achievements done to improve public health and reduce health disparities? As an academic, I may have interpreted them in various ways, but I have not changed them. So what did my career really accomplish? Maybe not so much. In the early 19th century, when founding the University of Berlin, Wilhelm von Humboldt envisioned an institution that combines research and teaching. Since then, this has become the dominant model of higher education around the world. And now it goes without saying that universities are research-based institutions. By mid-19th century, however, a famous or infamous graduate of the University of Berlin quipped, "Philosophers have hitherto only interpreted the world in various ways. The point is to change it." Fast forward 1.5 centuries, and we find ourselves in a similar situation. Only recently, the Dutch Minister of Education sighed that even though the adverse effects of smoking have been known for almost 60 years, in fact, it's 80, still many people refuse to have their cigarettes taken away from them. Smoking is certainly not an isolated case. There are many fields where the discrepancy between the knowledge that exists and the knowledge that is used is considerable. Think about climate change, inequality, geopolitics. While it may seem that it is the citizens who are not absorbing the existing knowledge, more often than not, it's the policymakers who are not acting upon the existing knowledge. The world has been interpreted, but it hasn't sufficiently changed. Impact remains lacking. So what is impact? What is it not? Impact is not the fancy translation of scientific articles into layperson summaries with tweetable quotes for the 8 o'clock news. It's not the dumbing down of complex concepts so that they can be displayed in fairs and discussed in the pub. And it's also certainly not spreading of scientific findings as immutable truths. Indeed, science is not the search for truth. It's truth's worst enemy. Because truth, especially eternal truth, don't exist. What we hold as true today may turn out to be a myth tomorrow. Science is what allows us to escape from myths cloaked as truth. So impact entails raising the scientific consciousness in society through rigorous pursuit of the scientific method to formulate, test, and synthesize hypotheses. As such, impact complements the tasks of research and teaching of universities by spreading not the outcomes of research, but the mode of research in society. The point is not to have a permanent hotline of the latest findings, but to emancipate society to apply the scientific method itself. Whenever a minister aims to implement a new policy, the thought should not be, we are doing this because it works, but we are doing this because we think it works, and we will implement it in such a way that tomorrow we have a better idea of whether and why it works. Seen in this way, impact is a natural complement of the other two core tasks of the university, research and teaching. In research, we use the scientific method to push the frontiers of knowledge. In teaching, we train undergraduate and graduate students to apply the scientific method for use inside and outside of the classroom. The trifecta of research, teaching, and impact share a common core, the scientific method, but have different audiences. Research speaks with the academic community, teaching with students, and impact with society at large. Putting the scientific method at the heart of creating societal impact does away with the impact narrative that start with the research that was performed by a university and trace its way through society. This one-way traffic view of impact disregards the importance of societal interaction for the formulation of hypotheses that have relevance for society as we find them in front of ourselves. Impact is not the end result of research. It is a key stepping stone in the formulation of research questions that stand to enhance the quality of life in society in which the university is embedded. Impact, however, is not limited to proselytizing the scientific method. In formulating his view for universities, von Humboldt was adamant that they be a breeding ground for world citizens who are aware of the world around them and actively participate in the progress of society. Looking toward today, this means that universities play a key role in the dynamics of the ideas that drive our world. At a time in which we find ourselves so obsessed with the present that even the near future is beyond contemplation, universities should act as searchlights for better futures, reminding society that every generation has an obligation that every generation has an obligation to leave the world in a better shape than which it found it. An obligation that we are failing in the broadest sense of the word. Ideas that ossify us in the present and that push problems towards the future should be challenged from the ranks of universities by clarifying the consequence that complacency today has on sustainability tomorrow. In sum, impact has a dual meaning. It aims at massaging the scientific methods into the capillaries of society, and it serves as a mirror to society, reminding us that our children are the victims of our deluge. Impact has many faces, but in all cases, an important ingredient is evidence-based, future-oriented policy. However, where evidence-based policy is preached, policy-based evidence is just around the corner. The value of universities as arbiters of knowledge is highly sought after, and a tempting trap is to fan the sails of private interests with a seal of approval of universities. Too often we see that universities dignify questionable private interests with commissioned reports or quick reviews of research that was otherwise executed from outside the realm of academia. And while research and teaching have rigorous procedures to a certain quality, viability, and independence, impact is often a gray area where the seal of the university is used without much thought. Therefore, impact, like research and teaching, needs to be carefully organized in order to maximize impact and minimize biased capture. Let's call the vehicles that organize impact at universities impact organizations. These may come in many shapes and sizes. Like the Aletta School of Public Health is one of them, but others can be considered and imagined too. These impact organizations fill the intermundia between science and society, which is an intermundia that which should not be confused with the intermundia of interdisciplinary institutes. Interdisciplinary institutes serve to fill the gaps between existing pillars of academia, such as faculties and departments. By contrast, impact organizations serve to fill the gap between science and society. And while these gaps are inherently interdisciplinary, they're often interdisciplinary in a different way than the ossified interdisciplinarity of interdisciplinary university institutes. Indeed, the saying goes that society has challenges and universities have departments. Interdisciplinary institutes are, for all their worth, still much like departments, and it's only by chance that the interdisciplinarity of their programs fit with the interdisciplinarity of the challenge of society. Impact organizations must, therefore, take the societal challenges as they arise in society as a starting point. These challenges are a moving target, and it's the role of impact organizations to articulate the scientific foundations of those challenges, to formulate knowledge gaps and identify potential vehicles with which the challenges can be addressed further. As such, impact organizations are knowledge brokers that do not themselves address the challenges, but interpret them in such a way that known knowledge vehicles can change them. This can be a large variety of vehicles or combinations of them. Think about new courses that connect undergraduate and graduate students to societal partners, research programs at the interface between science and society, but also spin-outs and startups that create market-based solutions that allow public and private parties to better integrate the scientific method into their decision-making. These tasks make impact organizations stand out from the rest of the structures that inhabit the university ecosystem. They combine brokerage with educational development, research program design, business development, and policy design. Their role is eternally ephemeral. Once they have found the right institutional embedding of the specific challenge that was at hand, they move on to the next challenge to solve. While this may seem as a very generic task, in order to actually understand the nature of societal challenges, it's important for impact organizations to have a deep understanding of the specific fields in which they act. It is impossible to do public health in the morning, climate change in the afternoon, and digitalization in the evening. Of course, this stands at odds with not being ossified into an interdisciplinary topic, but on the spectrum between a generic and a narrow focus, impact organizations do well to be field-specific, but also not to delve into subfields. Think of a school of public health, like Aletta, but also a school of government, or an institute of technology. Such topics are broad enough to have substantial institutional counterpart in terms of firms, ministries, and whatever, but also narrow enough that the challenges within them have a clear sense of coherence. Moreover, they can stand the test of time as priorities change over time, and within their umbrella, they can alter their focus without having to change the entire organization. Now, since their inception, universities have been built around discipline-based faculties: law, medicine, humanities, philosophy, physics, more recently, economics, business, psychology, and the like. These faculties form the pillars of universities, and within them, discipline-based departments form the pillars of the faculties. And the double pillarization assures a strong base that allows universities to act at the frontier of science, in which progress is piecemeal, yet enduring. This structure, however, is at odds with the societal impact that universities should aim to achieve. After all, societies have challenges, and universities have departments. But from the dual pillars of faculties and departments, impact organizations do not spring naturally. In fact, universities are rather conservative organizations, with also predominantly conservative staff, albeit with pockets of innovative and progressive people. This conservatism stems from the fact that universities are inherently in a monopolistic situation. In most countries, and certainly in the Netherlands, universities enjoy a great degree of protection against new entrants, not just at the institutional level, but also at the level of educational programs. As long as another program exists that serves the potential labor market, no new program can be set up, regardless of how innovative the new program may be, or how outdated the existing one is. As long as the existing ones cover the minimum requirements, it's almost impossible for new programs to challenge them. This monopoly situation has as a consequence that student numbers are a near certainty, and almost any vacancy is oversubscribed. The quality of the students and staff may vary, but the numbers are there. With staff and students covered, and thereby finances assured, impact quickly becomes an afterthought. Organizing impact is often seen as something that staff can do in their own time, with little or none of the structural support supplied to teaching and research, but impact does not come by itself. There are no policy leprechauns who miraculously deliver impact to the doorsteps of policymakers. Delivering impact means organizing impact. And this starts at the faculty level with centers that cross through the departments and need to be established, which bring together researchers around societal challenges. These centers are more inward-oriented and should aim at translating societal challenges into research and education programs. Such challenges are hardly ever served by a single faculty, so multiple faculties have to set up such centers, and then impact organizations act as an umbrella over these centers and are more outward focused, dealing essentially with narrowing the gap between society and the university. The impact organization then symbiotically works with the centers for a permanent translation of societal challenges into research and education, and vice versa for the translation of research into tangible anchors for public and private decision-making. This requires the right type of staffing, consisting of a combination of outward-oriented domain experts with professionals in the field of knowledge partnerships with public and private partners. It's an illusion that such staff can earn itself back in any way. What this staff does is make sure that the funds invested in impact have a large return on investment, but the basic investment should always be borne by the university. For impact to really be felt, it's important that it is not organized at the low-hanging fruit level. Those are, after all, easy to pluck. Impact is most felt when it deals with upstream policy, not in designing an intervention here or there, but in altering the process by which interventions are designed in the first place. This implies that impact organizations need to be able to act as trusted advisors to high-level policymakers, to understand the questions that play at that level, and to have the confidence and ability to critically reflect on the policy process at hand. This is inherently a confrontational process, as the one who dares to hold up the mirror may also come into the crossfire. Ironically, by aiming at the high-hanging fruit, also the low-hanging fruit gets plucked in the process. In fact, in the aggregate, a lot of the societal impact will come from more mundane activities than altering upstream policies. It will come from interaction with local policymakers, with regional citizen groups, etc. This, however, should never detract from the high-hanging fruit. change is hard, especially in monopolies. Protected by the stability that monopolies bring, many incumbents enjoy a quiet life in which change is seen as a threat to the status quo. To protect their position, incumbents will go through great lengths of manipulations to hold off change. But change will and must come for universities to remain beacons of society. The change that we have achieved with the Aletta Jacobs School of Public Health is only here because we dared to challenge the status quo. Because we reached for the stars but did not forget the moon. Because we had a mission and a drive to fulfill it. Today, I say goodbye, but I do so with a warm admiration for all that we have achieved together, and with great confidence that Brigitte Toebes will provide the leadership necessary for the school to thrive in the future. I want to thank everybody who made this journey possible. The deans who believed in the idea, the team who made it happen, and most importantly, my loving wife, Viola, who supported me through thick and thin over the last 6 years. I would love to say that the coming years will be quieter, but I think we all know that I would be lying. All the best.
Dames en heren, Jochen. Blijf staan. Neem het in ontvangst. Nou mag je gaan zitten. Je mag ook blijven staan. Dankjewel. Ja, ik zal hem weer aannemen van je. Ja. Ja, dan moet je daarna wat zeggen.
Ja.
Het is bij een gedicht al moeilijk, maar na een verhaal van Jochen misschien nog wel meer. Misschien heel kort, Jochen, op aansluitend wat je het eind zei. Hè? Aim for the stars, but don't forget the moon. Want dan verander je pas dingen. En dat is misschien wel de mooiste afsluiting die je kunt maken. Maar dat is natuurlijk helemaal in het licht van de naamgeefster van onze school, Aletta Jacobs. Want die nam ook niet aan wat gewoon was en wat voor de hand lag. Die deed ook de dingen anders, omdat ze vond dat het nodig was. Omdat ze vertrouwen had dat het nodig was. En daarom ging ze ervoor. Niet vanuit de overtuiging dat het ging lukken. Of niet dat ze wist, jongens, ik mag naar de universiteit of ik ga mijn doelen bereiken. Maar vanuit de overtuiging dat het moest en dat het zou gebeuren. En dan lukken dingen. En dat is denk ik het mooie van Aletta Jacobs en ook van Jochen. Ik zou bijna zeggen de Jochen Mierau School of Public Health, maar dan alleen vandaag. En dat is denk ik wel de nood om vandaag op te eindigen. Want we zijn op het einde gekomen van ons programma. Ik heb in ieder geval heel veel opgestoken. Ik vond het een mooie bijeenkomst, een fijne bijeenkomst. Dank voor jullie komst. We zijn aan het eind van ons formele programma, maar dat betekent nog niet dat we klaar zijn. We gaan zo meteen beneden nog door. Dan zijn er drankjes en hapjes. Nou, dat is altijd een heel leuk onderdeel van het programma. En ook weer de ruimte om met elkaar in dialoog en gesprek te gaan. Maar rond 1:05 zullen we ook informeel afscheid nemen van Jochen. En dan zijn er ook weer sprekers en video's en allemaal andere leuke dingen. Dus als u daarbij aanwezig kunt zijn vanaf 5 uur, ook gewoon hier beneden, blijf zeker, want het is echt de moeite waard. Dan wil ik tot slot u hartelijk bedanken, maar niet voordat ik graag een heel warm applaus wil voor het hele team van Aletta, die vandaag weer tot in de puntjes geregeld hebben de afgelopen maanden. En dat kost gewoon veel tijd en energie en dat zien we niet, maar er is echt achter de schermen heel veel werk verzet door het team. Dus u dank u wel, maar vooral een applaus voor het team van Aletta en we zien elkaar beneden.